Happy New Year! What is up, you guys? It is Zach, and welcome back to my channel. It is officially 2024. Well, not yet for me, but for you guys it is. And that means Nintendo has another year ahead of them to either really make us fans happy or disappoint us immensely. This is my yearly Nintendo predictions for the year, and we're gonna go all into that. But firstly, I actually have a question for you guys. What are you most looking forward to in the year 2024? I'm actually going to England again. I'm actually going to be seeing my favorite artist in concert, Avril Lavigne. She's an absolute goddess. He was a skater boy. She said, see you later, boy. He wasn't good enough for her. Sorry. Anyways, like I said, what are you guys looking forward to this year? It could be about Nintendo. It could be about anything. Let me know down in the comments down below. And without any further ado, let's get started with Nintendo predictions. Before we actually get into this year, I'm actually going to bring up last year's calendar and see how much I got right. Baba booey. And, you know, it's not the most correct thing in the universe, but I think that's the closest I've actually gotten to being correct. Let's actually dissect what I actually kind of got right here. Besides all the stuff that already had confirmed release dates by that point, like Fire Emblem and Kirby, I actually got a few things kind of at least nearly right. There was a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Direct. I think it might have been in April. I'll put the date up here on screen, but even if it wasn't April, even if it was in March, I actually was pretty right in the ballpark around there being a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Direct, but many of us kind of predicted it would happen. Pikmin 4 actually did come out last year, except it was in September, not August, but I'm going to give myself credit for being somewhat close. For October, this one I actually did get completely correct, basically, which is a new Super Mario Bros. Game, basically, coming out in October. That I actually got 100% correct. Obviously, I didn't get Super Mario Bros. Wonder correct, but, you know, the name. But a new 2D Mario game in October, I got that completely right. In November, I was a little bit off with the Pokemon DLC. There was one wave back in September and then one in December, but I put them both in the middle. I don't know if I remember there was 2 packs or not. The Splatoon DLC, I was also a little bit late on. And Metroid Prime Trilogy, well, there was no trilogy. They just remastered the first Metroid Prime and released it back in, like, February. And then also with the Game Boy for NSO, they also released that back in February. So yeah, overall, 2023, I was not spot on, but I think it's the closest I've ever been to an accurate year for Nintendo. And I'm really hoping to keep that trend going with this year's calendar. Speaking of this year's calendar, let's just get right on into the predictions. Now, I'm not going to show you the whole calendar. For those of you who are new to this, I go month by month and I talk about what I think is going to happen each month for Nintendo. So, of course, we are going to start with January, where I have Another Code Recollection and Golden Sun. Now, Another Code Recollection, I believe, is already confirmed to be coming out on the 19th of this month. It's a remake collection of the original games from the DS and the Wii. So if this is the series that you grew up liking, if this is something you remember from your childhood, it is getting remade and it's coming out this month. Now, Golden Sun I have here because of the fact that we're getting Game Boy Advance games, you know, on the Nintendo Switch Online service, and Golden Sun has yet to be released. So I figured with an RPG like Another Code Recollection coming out this year, I figured it'd be cool to have another RPG kind of tag alongside with it, being Golden Sun. It is a very popular series from the Game Boy Advance, and many fans will be happy with its return. Next up, for February, we have Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the GBA remake, as well as Donkey Kong 64 for the Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, many people already are excited for this game, those who played the original back on the GBA. They're excited to have a more traditional Mario vs. Donkey Kong game as opposed to what the future installments brought. And it is already confirmed to be coming out in February, so stay tuned for that. The game already looks pretty cool, so I'm sure if you're a fan of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, you're going to get some enjoyment out of this one. And for Donkey Kong 64, this is another one where it's like, I think it's kind of well themed for the month. You know, you release this one alongside a Mario vs. Donkey Kong game, so you have DK64, the original 3D DK platformer way back from the Nintendo 64 era. This game has mixed reception among fans. Some people think it's too grindy, some people think there's too much to collect and it's just a little bit cumbersome, but the game does have a cult following, as it is a Rare 3D platformer, and by Rare I mean Rareware, you know, the makers of Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day and all that stuff. So, with them behind the helm, something like DK64 coming out in the month of February would be a very big deal for a lot of Donkey Kong fans. In March, I only have Princess Peach Showtime. I have no NSO games for this month. Now keep in mind, something I forgot to mention earlier is I'm not going to include any potential NES and Super Nintendo games because, let's be real, most people at this point really mainly care about the GBA, Game Boy Color, whatever, and the N64 games. So I'm only going to talk about an N64 and Game Boy Advance games that could be coming out this year, theoretically. So Princess Peach Showtime, again, already has a confirmed release date. Many people are very excited for this game, myself included, actually. The game looks like it has a lot of unique elements, some visual flair. I really like the detective-looking mode where Princess Peach turns into a detective, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of different gameplay elements. The one thing I'm wondering is, like, will it feel like it's trying to do too much? We'll have to wait and see. I still think it's going to be a charming time. It's going to be a very unique game, and for Nintendo, releasing unique games, you guys know I love when Nintendo actually tries some new things, so this is going to be very exciting when it comes out. Moving on to the month of April, I feel like this is going to be probably one of the more interesting months, according to what fans are expecting. Now, in April, I'm thinking we're going to get Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door Remake, and I think we're going to get Mario Tennis Power Tour for the Game Boy Advance. Now, for Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, obviously it's a highly expected remake of a GameCube classic. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is highly regarded as usually the best of the Paper Mario series, and obviously is so popular and has been so spoken about that even Nintendo is remaking it. And usually Nintendo don't do many remakes of Mario games like I think in that kind of caliber. So I am really interested to see this come back and see what the fan reception is to it in the year 2024. It's going to be really interesting to see. Now, for the Game Boy Advance game, I chose Mario Tennis Power Tour. Now, obviously, you know, there is one other GBA game that was previously announced that is not out yet, that will come up later in this video. But sometimes Nintendo, like, has been filling in other, you know, games in between games they had already announced. So I do think another little Mario game to tide people over this month as well will also come out. And not to mention, Mario Tennis Power Tour, I just absolutely do love. It's a fun Mario sports game. It's got a cool little RPG mode within it, and it is really fun. So that's what I think they're going to do for April. Alright, for the month of May, I have that they're actually not going to be doing a new game release. I think it's going to be just the Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC, as well as Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64 online service. Now, with, Splatoon 3, obviously we do know that Part 2 of the DLC is something we're still waiting for. And they did confirm it will be coming out in the spring of 2024. And I do think that May is a pretty good time for it, right before E3. Just a little thing to tide us over until E3 after the big, Paper Mario remake drops. I think it'll fit in perfectly there. And then Diddy Kong Racing, like, yes, DK64 is, to be a big one from Rare. But Diddy Kong Racing, what this one has is it has the Rareware characters like Banjo and Conker that usually would make this game impossible to bring back. And I think Rare is going to be like, nah, we're bringing it back. Because they did just recently bring Jet Force Gemini over. So Rare is obviously getting a little more comfortable with bringing games to Nintendo platforms, and what makes sense more to do next than one that actually has Nintendo characters and is based on one of Nintendo's characters. So I think DK64 and Diddy Kong Racing would be the two Rare games I think would be perfect to bring over this year. Now, of course, I would love to see them bring Banjo-Tooie or Conker's Bad Fur Day, but I think those two are a lot more likely. Alright, so for June, I think they're going to do not just Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, but a Luigi's Mansion HD collection. I think it'll be marketed as that. There'll be two games in one, being Luigi's Mansion HD and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. And basically, what it sounds like, it's the first two Luigi's Mansion games in HD on your Nintendo Switch that you can take anywhere you want, and it's literally just going to be that simple. I did a whole video, if you want to check it out, it's up here. You can click this little annotation of what I think they would do and why I think the original will come out alongside of Dark Moon. But I do think that having them both come out at the same time, having it be 2 games in one, especially for how small the Luigi's Mansion games are, I think it would be more beneficial for Nintendo to do that, especially because of the fact that Luigi's Mansion 2 was on the 3DS, and Luigi's Mansion Remake was on the 3DS, so redoing both of those and putting them together, I think would be the best of both worlds. And of course, I also have no NSO games here. I was debating putting Smash 64 here, but I'm not quite sure about that. Diddy Kong Racing being a heavy multiplayer game, I don't know if they'd want to release Smash literally just a month after it, but we'll have to wait and see. It is Nintendo, you never know. Alright, July is probably going to make some fans excited for what I think they could do, and that is, bam, a new F-Zero game. Now, it could just be a new F-Zero game, like, I don't know, I feel like F-Zero 99 was really testing the waters to see how interested fans are in the F-Zero series, and obviously, when it came out, it actually did really, really well, and actually, people even still really, really like it. So, I do think Nintendo are actually going to dabble and try F-Zero again. Now, I don't think it's going to be a big new title. I don't think it's going to be explosive. I don't think it's going to be, like, this grand big thing. I think it's going to be a little more of an experimental title. Something a little smaller, something that's obviously not, like, too big a budget. Obviously, something that's been developed, in a short amount of time, just to kind of put towards the end of the Switch's life cycle. So, I do think they're going to do something with F-Zero. I just don't know what. And then, of course, I also have the F-Zero Maximum Velocity game for the Game Boy Advance to be put on the Nintendo Switch Online service, because that is the last confirmed game we have for the Game Boy Advance, and obviously Nintendo is going to release it at some point, so why not right next to their next F-Zero game? So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking for the month of July. Alright, I'm going to make a very bold prediction for August. I think August will see another Legend of Zelda game. It'll be a remake, but not a remake collection. I think we're just going to get Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD. Now, obviously, like, many people would be like, but I think they're going to put Twilight Princess and Wind Waker together. Both of those are very big, expansive, games, and I just don't know if Nintendo's going to do it, especially when they've both been HD-ified and look really good and are modernized. I don't know if Nintendo's going to do that, so I do think they're going to take one of them and put it on the Switch, and I think Wind Waker for the summertime just kind of makes sense. So that's why I'm putting that there. And the only other thing that's making me scratch my head is obviously it's only 2 months after Luigi's Mansion. I'm saying Luigi's Mansion from the GameCube we brought back, and then 2 months before that was Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. But anything's possible. It is Nintendo, and this is going to be a remake-heavy year, I think, as you've probably seen. Who knows? That F-Zero game that I talked about before, that could be F-Zero GX being remade, or F-Zero X being remade. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I'm thinking for the month of August. Alright, this is another kind of wishful thinking one, but I do think it is possible we're going to get another new game. Yes, new games around this time, because we are going to get talking into potentially a next system. And I do think this will be a smaller drop for Nintendo, but it will be a game that fans would be happy for. And that is Wario Land 6. Because 5, I think, is Shake It. So there's 4, then Shake It, then this one, I think. I don't know. I'm not a big Wario Land guy, but I think I got the numbering correct. Wario Land is a fan-favorite series for a lot of people. People really like these games, sometimes even more than WarioWare. And the fact that WarioWare got 2 games on the Switch, I think Wario Land fans at least deserve something. So getting Wario Land 6 or a new Wario Land game would be really, really good for those fans. And then, of course, obviously, Wario Land 4 from the Game Boy Advance being dropped on NSO is a no-brainer. It's probably one of the more popular ones from what I know. So, yeah, I do think that makes sense for them to do, and we shall see. Having September be the month of Wario would be pretty cool. The month of October, I am predicting, yes, I'm predicting a new Mario Party game. Listen, you guys, Mario Party, I love it. I really don't think they're going to do another one on the Switch, but I think with how well the first 2 Mario Parties have done, and the fact that it seems like they aren't doing DLC for Superstars by this point, I think it is very likely they're at least working on the next Mario Party, and given that it's already been over 2 years since Superstars has come out, I do think it's very likely that we could be seeing another Mario Party this year. As to if it's a Superstars 2, a completely new title, I don't know, you guys. It could be anything. And then, of course, for the NSO game, I put Mario Party Advance, just simply because, again, Mario Party, releasing it that same month, especially because Mario Party Advance is a little bit different than, than the Mario Party formula, like any of the games. I think it'd be very, very cool for them to, bring that one back and maybe get some people to play it for how different it is. And I think that would be a pretty cool October. All right, we're at November. November is when I think Switch 2. It's when I think they're going to release the next console. I think it would be absolutely, detrimental. It would be the worst if they held off making a new console until 2025. I think that would literally be Nintendo's downfall. Waiting too long. Sales have really started to slow down for the Switch. The hardware is getting really outdated with things like the Steam Deck and all these other, not even competitors, because they're just leagues different and better than what Nintendo does. They need to do something. They need new hardware, I think, this year. And doing that, I think, is essential. Now, you see 3 pretty big titles up there, being Super Mario, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon. Let's start with Pokemon. I think there would be a new Pokemon game, but I don't think it would come out on the new Switch console. I think it would be on the current one, what we already have. It could be backwards compatible with the new one, but I think, at first it'll be just on the Switch 1, what we have now. And I just kind of think that's how it goes, because sometimes Pokemon Team are slow to bring them to the next, for the Switch, it took them, I think, 2 years, or a year or 2 to bring Pokemon to the Switch when the Switch launched. So I think it'll take them a little while for the next generation as well. So I do think the next generation of Pokemon we will see on the first generation Switch. And again, could very well be backwards compatible with the Switch 2. Now, for Mario and Metroid Prime, let's start with Metroid Prime 4. Obviously, Metroid Prime 4 we've known about since the Switch's first year. We've known about this thing for 6.5 years now. It's insane how long this game has been in the development cycle, and it's been nearly 5 years now since Metroid Prime 4 restarted development. Well, I think it's about dang time we get it. Now, I do think it will be, like Breath of the Wild, a cross-generation thing. You can get Metroid Prime on the Switch, and you can get it on the Switch 2. Now, obviously, because of the fact that, if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, why would you need to get it on the first Switch? I think getting it on the Switch 2 will give you some natural advantages. I think there are advantages of games, just like PS4 and PS5, right? PS4 versions of games and PS5 versions of games, even though you can play the PS4 versions on the PS5, there's still that natural difference. And that's what I think they're going to do with Metroid Prime. Especially because of the fact that with Metroid Prime not being the biggest seller, it's not going to make people buy a Switch 2. I think offering it to Switch 1 users and Switch 2 users just gives more people the opportunity to buy the game, which is the mindset I think Nintendo's going to have with it. Now, Mario. I think they're going to launch the new system with a 3D Mario game. It doesn't make sense for them to launch with a new 3D Zelda because we just got one. I don't think there's really any other bigger games that are in contention to launch with the Switch. So I do think a new 3D Mario game exclusive to the Switch 2 will come out. And, it's been a while. It's been, 6.5 years, maybe a little less than that, since Super Mario Odyssey came out. So we are very much due for a new 3D Mario game, and I think this is when we're going to get it. And to knock some other guesses off the charts, no, I don't think we're getting a new Mario Kart at launch. No, I don't think we're going to get a new Luigi's Mansion at launch. We could potentially get a new Mario Party. That could be interesting, but I think we're just going to get a 3D Mario, which when I say just getting, I mean, that's still a pretty big deal, a good first launch lineups title, as well as Metroid Prime 4. I think those two launching with some other smaller games like the typical Just Dance or whatever else comes out, I think that'll be a perfectly adequate launch for the Switch 2. Having a new 3D Mario is something that everyone wants, and then of course Metroid. So I think that's the perfect Switch 2 lineup for a launch. So that's why I'm thinking for November. Very big month. Now for December, I don't really have anything for the Switch 2. This is something I think they're just going to do for the Switch 1 as a smaller title that you can, of course, play on the Switch 2, assuming it's backwards compatible, which, if it's not backwards compatible, that's a really stupid decision from Nintendo. But, nevertheless, I think it's going to be Kid Icarus Uprising Remake. A lot of people really want this remake. Sakurai has himself expressed wanting to do this remake. And then having it be a title that comes out after the Switch 2 is already launched, it's a smaller title, it's probably not going to sell millions of units anyways, like even before or after it comes out, so having it sell, putting it around like December, like when the holidays are coming up, and like, I guess Pit looks like an angel, so angels, Christmas, I don't know, it could work. But yeah, that's kind of what I think they're going to do for December, so yeah. So there you have it, guys, that is my Nintendo calendar for 2024. I really hope I'm right. If this is Nintendo's 2024, I think it'll be a very strong year. For at least me and what I like with a new Luigi's Mansion. I mean, that's confirmed, or not new Luigi's Mansion, but you know what I mean, Luigi's Mansion, which is already confirmed, at least the second game. They have a new Mario Party, Wario Land returning, F-Zero properly returning. There's a lot of good stuff here to where, like, I think this is a realistic-ish year if there's new hardware. If there's no new hardware this year, which again would really not work, then I don't know what they would do in November. Just take out like the Metroid and the Mario and maybe just have a new Pokemon game. But I do think that is a pretty realistic calendar, like I said, if there is new hardware. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Really hope you enjoyed. Happy New Year again to everyone, and I really hope you have a safe one. So until next time, you guys, I'll see you all in the next video.